Hey everyone, Roob, how you doing?
Doing well.
It's Super Bowl week. Are you excited?
I am. I'm not as busy as last year, Super Bowl week.
That's true.
It's kind of crazy that it's been a year since that experience.
Yeah, and I guess Sunday was 6 years from the last Super Bowl.
The one they won. Yeah, saw a lot of, I think every other post on my social media timelines was the Philly special.
Yeah, it's crazy how much has changed since then.
I remember watching that play in real time in the stadium, and I was like, oh, okay, Doug just had Nick catch a touchdown from backup tight end. Okay, write down my play-by-play, write an observation. It was just surreal. The whole day was surreal.
I was in a cold medicine-induced haze, so
you were not in good shape.
Yeah,
it's hard to imagine getting a cold when it's minus 12.
Yeah, me and Alshon were pretty sick that week.
Yeah.
All right, we have a lot to talk about today.
You both had good days.
We did. Him a little better than me, but yeah. We talked about it after the game, which is funny.
You and Alshon did?
Mm-hmm, yeah. We have a lot to talk about today. I want to let everyone know this is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan, Ruben Frank, Dave Zangaro. We're recording this podcast, next podcast. I'm going out of town, so we wanted to have pods on our normal schedule. So if there's a minor move that happens between when we record this and when it airs, that's why we're not talking about it. But
like if Jeff Lurie sells the team,
yeah,
something
like, why aren't they talking about this? That's why.
Well, do that voice again. Whose voice now?
That was just angry fan.
Is that what you think our listeners sound like?
The ones who would complain about it. Yes.
Okay.
We do have a lot to talk about. The Eagles hired a new quarterbacks coach, which is very notable. We'll get into that a little bit. We'll hear from DeVonta Smith. My interview with him last week had some really interesting things to say. We'll look at some pending free agents. We'll look at offense today and then defense later in the week. Not the names, but certainly some guys that we want to watch this offseason. And then we'll talk about some of the futures contracts a little bit later. But let's start with the biggest news from the weekend. Doug Nussmeier is the Eagles' new quarterbacks coach. Not a surprise given his history with Kellen Moore, but pretty notable that he's here.
Yeah, and it's a really important position because this team's success is tied to Jalen's success. So this is really the same thing in a lot of ways. So I don't know a lot about Doug. He was like a lot of these guys. He was a journeyman, played briefly in the NFL. Good college quarterback. He's been around the league. He was obviously been with Kellen Moore. It tells you this is Kellen Moore's offense. He's bringing his guys in. These aren't names that Nick is like, what about this? This is Kellen Moore saying, yeah. And it can't hurt to have another guy named Doug because they've had good success with coaches named Doug. So I don't know him. I don't know a ton about him except what we've all read. But I know that Kellen Moore had good success really everywhere he's been with quarterbacks, and they've got to get Jalen back where he was 2 years ago, and maybe they've got the guys to do it.
Yeah, to me, the most notable part about this hire is that Kellen Moore is bringing his guy.
Right.
And we knew that, Nick said that this offensive coordinator was going to run the offense, but we wanted to see what the split would look like because they're not going to completely abandon all the concepts they've used, but bringing in your quarterbacks coach is a pretty big indicator that it's Kellen Moore's offensive ship right now.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just another thing of what exactly is Nick's role here? It's kind of the whole offseason has been about that. Mm-hmm. This is not his, I guess it's his team, but it's not his offense or his defense, certainly. But I guess it's still his team. Interesting thing struck me about Nussmeier is he had a very short NFL career, but he's playing for Jim Mora, mm-hmm. who obviously Vic Fangio's, they're on different sides of the ball, but there's just these tentacles going back to Jim Mora kind of all over this staff, which is interesting.
Another fun one with Nussmeier is he worked with Stout at Alabama. Yeah. So, if you're wondering, I think that's a really big part of this is, Kellen Moore is going to bring his offense, but a lot of it is really pass heavy stuff. And we still think Stout's going to be the run game coordinator and kind of install the run game. So having even more familiarity with him and this new staff, I think that'll kind of help bridge the gap a little bit, because you need those two things to really mesh for this offense to work.
Yeah, and we don't know. We don't know. It's not like they would announce that Stout's staying, but I mean, I can't imagine he wouldn't be.
He's here as long as he wants to be here.
You would think. You would think that would be the one thing. I mean, I would think any offensive coordinator who comes in would want Stout to be his O-line coach. The guy's a legend. I mean, everybody in the league knows of him. If they haven't worked with him, they know someone who has. So I think that's most likely the case. They just don't announce those type of things. It's just kind of you wait and wait. All right, they haven't brought in an O-line coach, and they seem to be done. And at some point, they'll put out a press release saying this is our coaching staff for 24, and his name will be on it. But yeah, I think that is important because, like, he's more than just an O-line coach.
Yeah,
I mean he's an advisor to Nick. He's a like you said, he's installing the running game. So he works with the running backs. I was always impressed. Miles Sanders would always just go over to offensive line practice when they were doing special teams and he had nothing to do, just to watch Stout and to learn about blocking schemes and just kind of learn as much football as he could. Didn't help him this past year, but helped him 2 years ago, I guess.
he forgot everything.
Well, it's different scheme, different system. But yeah, so that's really a priority, is having Stout here. And the fact that he's got a little background with Nussmeier is certainly has to be a positive, you would think.
Yeah, but I guess you never really know. Like, you bring in a new quarterbacks coach.
Yeah.
Is he going to jibe with the quarterback? And it's not just one quarterback. We'll see who the backup is, and then we know Tanner McKee will be here. Maybe backup is Tanner McKee.
I think there's a pretty good chance.
Yeah. But either way, like, it's a room of quarterbacks. At the top is obviously Jalen, but there are other guys too.
Yeah, and I don't know how you know that. Like, Alex Tenney was here before he was QB's coach, so Jalen knew him, and I would think he would have had to sign off on it to some degree. Nick would be like, what do you think of Alex getting promoted to QB's coach? Yeah, okay. So they had a relationship. They'd worked together. Obviously, didn't work out. So I don't know how you know that. Like, Jalen probably doesn't know Doug Nussmeier. I don't think it hurts that the guy played quarterback in the league. Where do you go to college? Idaho?
Idaho, yeah.
Idaho, right? Probably would help if he was at Bama, but
he coached there.
He did coach there. That can't hurt.
He worked under Saban.
Yeah. So there's common ground there, but sometimes you just don't know, like, how it's going to click. But you just hope. I mean, his track record. I mean, he's got obviously a lot of this. I think you wrote about this. A lot of this offseason is about experience, and it's
amazing. Like, every coach they've hired has significant experience.
Yeah,
and it's really kind of a big departure from what they were last year, where, if your coordinators don't have a lot of experience, then it's very unlikely that the position coaches under them are going to have a lot of experience.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to kind of go, when they're done with the staff, to go position by position, like coaching position by position, and compare.
We'll add up the years of experience.
Yeah, I mean, just Vic himself is going to, with Patricia, would you do years of defensive coaching experience? How would you?
You'd add them all together.
All his coaching.
You can't contain the juggernaut that is Matty P. You got to add them all together.
Matty P. Did that really happen?
Hot candidate out there. It's been kind of crazy watching all these teams throw themselves in Matt Patricia this offseason.
I might retweet that. Who tweeted that? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I might retweet that, like, at the end of the cycle.
Yeah. Teams have been, just the bidding war over Matt Patricia this offseason has been outrageous.
Some teams have been bidding against themselves. Like, their offensive coaches want them as OC, and their defensive coaches want them as DC. Yeah. And they're like, some of these guys might not coach again. So it's interesting how you're like, all right, where's he going to go? Where's he going to go? I mean, I don't know if Alex Tanney's going to get a job, and maybe a college job, maybe.
I think these guys will coach again.
Not all of them. At least maybe not. I mean, like Eric Bieniemy. Like, I mean, he's not.
He's going to coach again.
I know, but, like, he won't be an OC.
Yeah, it is funny. Like, and we talk about, we're going to, in the next pod, I think we're going to talk about the head coaches that got hired this cycle, but Bieniemy's not one of them. And he kind of bet on himself going to Washington. And I thought he had a pretty good year,
considering what he had to work
with.
He
had Sam Howell as his quarterback.
Yeah.
We saw firsthand how many fits he gave this team, but it's a weird thing. We talk about like Ben Johnson not leaving. Well, he'll have a chance next year. You don't know that.
Right.
We thought Kellen Moore was going to be a head coach by now, and he's not. Sometimes things don't always go the way you expect.
I'll never forget, and you're going to roll your eyes at me. 1992, covering Shawnee basketball. Danny Earl was their star player who went to Penn State, and I believe he's coaching somewhere now, but they were all juniors. Malik Allen, who played at Villanova. Well, he wasn't on that team. Kirk Luckman was a center. He went to Florida. Brian Earl was a freshman. He went to Princeton. But I remember
you don't know where you parked your car today.
After they won yeah, I do. Oh, wait a minute. There's a parking lot with 500,000 spots, and there's 4 cars here, so yeah. I think I can find it. But I remember after they won the Tournament of Champions, they beat Marist 46-42 at the Meadowlands, and I remember talking to Danny Earl after the game, and I said, "You're all juniors, next year," and he's like, "You never know what next year holds. We're all juniors, but what are the odds that we have that everything falls into line and we get these opportunities next year? You can't count on that." This is like a 18-year-old kid, like teaching me this lesson that always stuck with me. And it's so true. Like that whole, well, we have the whole team coming back next year. We have these guys under contract next year. It never goes that way.
Yeah, it's kind of the feeling after the Eagles lost the Super Bowl in 22.
Exactly. And that's what
the feeling the Lions had, and Dan Campbell brought it up in the post game.
That was kind of weird timing. That's not the time to bring that up.
He's right, though.
We just blew our only chance that we'll ever have. But that whole notion of you'll have so many chances to get back there, you don't know. Jalen might never play in another Super Bowl. That might have been his one chance. I think he probably will, but you don't know that. You think he'll ever play in another Super?
Yeah, I think odds are pretty good.
Yeah. But anyway,
he plays in the NFC, which I think is a boost because the AFC has Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah,
and that team seems to be in the mix every year. You don't have a team like that right now in the NFC.
Niners are pretty close. I mean, they're
okay. They're not there yet.
They make deep runs, but yeah, they got a pretty good young quarterback. What's Purdy, 25, same age as Jalen.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of great young quarterbacks in the NFC. I think a lot of the good ones, the better ones, are in the AFC. But anyway,
for now. But there's a draft coming up.
There is, and Washington might end up with a pretty good one. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, what'd you make of the Kingsbury hire there? I was kind of hoping it would be Chip, just because that would be fun.
Yeah, me too.
Just for content's sake.
Yeah, that would have been fun. I wonder if Chip's going to find a spot. There's not that many left.
Yeah, it seems like he really does want back in the NFL.
Of course. Yeah, he doesn't want to recruit. Go to kids' houses and try to be nice to their moms.
The Kingsbury thing was weird, though. It was a contractual thing that he ended up not going to the Raiders.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know. I don't know what to make of him. I mean, I just don't know. So much of this is who's your quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to start all the Caleb.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, if you're the Bears, what do you do?
What do I do?
Yeah. I like Justin. I think you can win.
I like Justin Fields. I think I'm higher on Justin Fields than a lot of people still.
Yeah, me too.
I see it. I wouldn't give up on him.
I wouldn't either. But
I guess it comes down to your evaluation. If you evaluate, I think it's probably Caleb Williams. But if you evaluate one of the quarterbacks and think, no, this is our best chance, then you have to draft him.
Yeah.
Then you have to trade Justin.
But you can get more trading the pick than trading Justin.
Sure.
So I think I would take that chance.
Trade the pick, keep the quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could really get some talent.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we're off topic, but
yeah, a little bit. Doug Nussmeier, the new quarterbacks coach. We'll see how that goes, and we'll see as the staff continues to fill out a little bit.
Yeah.
Want to get into some offensive free agents?
Sure.
I had the full list is on our website, NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com. I had them listed alphabetically, which I think is just a nice way to do this, and we'll go through them. The offensive pending free agents, Jack Driscoll, kind of a guy that doesn't seem important to the team, but he's played an awful lot over the last 4 years. Ended up being a pretty good 4th-round pick.
Yeah, I think so. And he's been up and down. Had some games where he didn't play well, but I think overall he's versatile. He's solid. Understands his role. I'd bring him back
for the right price. Now, I wonder if teams are going to start falling over themselves to maybe Andre Dillard didn't help that, but to take Eagles offensive linemen and pay them a little bit. We saw that with Big V. We saw that with Dillard. I guess those are tackles.
Say Malo played really well for the Steelers. You're getting a guy who's coached
well. Nate Herbig go and play elsewhere.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting point. I think if you're getting a stout guy, you're getting a guy who's going to get the most out of what he has and has been well taught. I mean, I think Dillard. I don't know if Dillard could. I don't know if there's anything Stout could have done to make Dillard better than he is. I guess.
I don't know,
but I think that might add some value. But I don't think there'll be a big bidding war for Jack Driscoll. I think he'll probably be back.
Be more of a bidding war for Jack Driscoll than Matt Patricia.
That's true.
and just like Matt Patricia, Driscoll is versatile. Plays guard and tackle.
He can, yes.
How many Matt Patricia jokes can I squeeze into the next few?
We're going to get a call from Jack Driscoll. I don't appreciate you guys comparing me to Coach Matty P.
Julio Jones.
Oh, he's getting married, actually, Jack Driscoll, I think, in the next week or two.
Oh, okay. Congratulations to Jack Driscoll. Yeah. Julio Jones, kind of a shame the way his time here ended, but in a way, kind of cool because he held on to the football.
He did.
It was a 14-yard catch in the playoff game, got concussed.
Yeah.
Held on to the football. You know, that might have been the last play of his NFL career.
Well, he wouldn't be the first Hall of Fame wide receiver whose career ended as an Eagle with an injury. I believe Art Monk broke his arm on his last catch.
I didn't know who you were talking about.
I didn't either for a second. Okay. No, Art Monk broke his arm. A lot of those, James Lofton finished his career here. A lot of Hall of Fame receivers. Not a lot of them start here, but a lot of them finish here. But Julio, I mean, what do you have? 3 touchdowns?
Yeah.
It's hard to have higher expectations for a guy that age. It was fun having him around.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think his teammates enjoyed having him around.
Yeah, but they got to get better at that spot. He's not a guy. I mean, he's not a guy you would bring back.
No. I enjoyed having him around, though. It was fun. It's always fun getting to talk to a guy who's accomplished what he's – and even Julio did it in such a cool way. You know what I mean? Like, everyone just kind of respects that guy.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, he helped. But, yeah, I would think he'll call it a career.
And it's fun to get a Hall of Famer around for a little while.
Yeah.
All right, next one. We'll go from that to Jason Kelce, who's the same age but played at an all-pro level. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on Kelce here because we've talked about it so much. Like, if he wants to be back, he'll be back. We'll see.
All these Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if we made too much of what he said or what teammates said after the Tampa game. I mean, he's always told me it's a decision he won't make until weeks after the season ends and he can take the emotion out of it. It could have been his last game, and he was very emotional. I think because it was 32-9, he was probably emotional because he knew it could have been his last game. I'm not convinced that's definitely the case.
Okay,
we'll see.
I think he's done.
I think he's more likely done than not.
Okay,
but I know he's always said he's going to take a few weeks after every season and
I think a guy deserves to announce his retirement on his own terms.
Absolutely.
And I'm not like knocking Schefter because look, he's more plugged in than anyone in the world. And if he gets that information, I get that he has to go with it. But I'd like guys to be able to announce the end of their careers.
Yeah.
Marcus Mariota paid him a lot of money to be a backup, and it's your insurance policy. You don't end up cashing in on it. He doesn't need to play very much. Did Tanner McKee show you enough last preseason to not need Marcus Mariota?
I think so.
Yeah,
he did. And you give him another year in the spring program, another off season. I liked what I saw from him, and I know he was going up against third stringers for the most part.
It's a big savings if you don't have to pay a backup quarterback.
Yeah. It's an interesting call. I mean,
it was a $5 million insurance policy last year.
You're right.
And are we convinced that he'd be that much better than Tanner McKee?
No. That's why I would lean toward. I mean, he was pretty good. McKee was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just see him improving as camp went along, get more confident.
And we've seen young quarterbacks who look the part when they walk out there, and then they start throwing the ball, and you go,
yeah,
that's not it.
Yeah.
McKee, you saw pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I would feel comfortable with him.
Yeah. Kind of another guy who was fun to have around for a year, Mariota.
Yeah.
After, all the years ago, like all the speculation and him being such a high-profile player at Oregon.
He's a great guy to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed chatting with him.
Me too. I remember talking to him about just how nervous he was to leave Hawaii and go to Oregon. He said he almost didn't go. He almost just freaked out and didn't go.
Really?
And his parents were like, "No, you're going."
Wow.
Yeah. Imagine that. Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, I think I'd be comfortable with. And then, if McKee isn't having a good camp, you bring a veteran. You find a veteran.
Mm-hmm. You find a guy.
You bring in Jeff Garcia or something.
He's our baby. Boston Scott. They brought him back last year.
Yeah.
It was like a $2 million deal.
He was our highest paid running back.
Yeah, for Boston, who we all love, but he didn't have a role.
Yeah.
On offense, at least.
Yeah.
He was the kick returner, but that's a play that doesn't even really exist.
Obsolete job. If I'm him, maybe, I mean, he's been around. I don't know if he'll ever be more than he is. I really like the player. What are you going to do with him, though? I mean, I guess if somebody gets hurt.
But the flip side of this, the only running back you have under contract, really under contract, is Kenny Gainwell.
Right.
So you have to fill that room somehow.
Well, and we'll get to Swift, but I would think,
he's the next one, so we can do these together.
Yeah. I would think if you bring back Swift, you don't need to bring back Boston.
But I don't think they're very likely to bring back Swift.
I think there's a chance. I mean, and if you're Boston,
what % chance would you put on it?
35.
Okay.
If you're Boston, do you want to maybe try to find a place where you have a bigger role? I don't know if that place exists.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if that's out there.
Yeah. I mean, he's always produced when he's had a chance.
The only way the Giants can replace Saquon is if they bring in Boston.
Yeah. I think he'll be in the league somewhere.
He's had a nice career for a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, with the Saints, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a very underrated middle of the year, signed off the Saints practice squad in 2018.
Mm-hmm. He's been a nice player for them.
Yeah, he has. Good guy too. Really.
Yeah, one of our favorites.
Yeah,
I think we had him on the pod.
We did
so ago. Yeah,
we did. We'll always have
the memories.
We'll always have. We'll always have the bodyguard.
Yeah,
that was a great day at training camp. Boston, the bodyguard.
What do you make of Swift? What do you think's going to happen? Because it's really strange. Last year, the running back market was just didn't exist except for Miles Sanders. He gets paid and doesn't produce, has an awful year.
That's why I think Swift has a chance, because nobody's going to get paid. That's why I think he has a chance. I think he'll.
And if he has to take a cheap 1-year deal, he'd rather do it here.
Yeah, I think he'll hit free agency. I'm guessing he'll hit free agency.
I think he probably wants to. He's never done it before.
Right. And he had a really good year. I still think he was underutilized.
I do too.
And he might think he'll be more underutilized under Kellen Moore, as a runner at least. But I think there's some value in the player, and you can get more out of him. And I think in an offense that's really functioning at a higher level, he can be more effective. Where when he's running, it's not like everyone knows he's running and everyone knows the 3 plays that he might be running. If he hits free agency and the number isn't there, and Howie has a number on the table, a modest number, say, look, if you're not hearing what you want to hear out in free agency, this is what we have. And, I don't know, 3.3. 1 year, 3.3. And I just think what's happened with some of these guys getting, whether it's, Saquon or Miles or Jonathan Taylor, some of these running backs, they have 1 or 2 great years and then they just kind of fall back to earth. Now, the flip side of that is, can that happen with Swift? Well, he hasn't really played as much as those other guys. So, but it's a really interesting question because there's a lot of permutations. My guess is he hits free agency, doesn't hear what he wants, and maybe comes back here, maybe goes somewhere else, but I think there's a chance.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's the way it would happen, though. I don't think it's like free agency. I don't think it's going to happen before free agency. I don't think it's going to be like they want a free agency, he's back. I think it would be like a week or so later, it's not there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, anything's possible. I mean, he might go in and meet with Kellen Moore and really like what he hears and how he's like giving a number that's like, all right, I'm not going to get more than this. And
he did enjoy playing here. Like some guys don't like playing in their hometown. There's too much pressure. They got to get too many tickets and it can be a distraction. I get the sense he really did appreciate playing here.
I think you're right. And
it's not that it's like everyone isn't wired like that.
Yeah.
And that's not good or bad. It's just the way it is.
I mean, who was the edge rusher they drafted?
Sharif.
Yeah. That's a shame. But I think there's a fair chance.
Okay. Albert Aquabenum. I learned how to say that name. I learned how to spell it, and then I didn't get to use it all year.
Well, Alberto is didn't they release him? I thought
he landed on IR.
I thought they cut him.
No.
I mean, he'll always go down in my memory as that tells you a lot about. I just thought they cut him already. They put him on IR December 30th.
And he amazingly looked pretty healthy when I saw him after that.
He's a quick healer. I mean, it'll always go down in my mind as the guy that they kept when they could have just cut him and kept Christian Ellis.
Yeah.
Not that Christian Ellis is an all-pro linebacker, but when you don't have any linebackers, it might make sense to keep one of the few under contract who's shown some ability. So, no, I think it's time for Albert to move on.
Okay. How about Sua Peta? Been a nice little player for the Eagles. He's kind of bounced between the roster and the practice squad, but he's played a lot.
I think he can play. I think he's pretty good.
I don't know if I'd go pretty good. I think he can get you by a game.
I think he could be an average starter in the league. I think somebody might sign him.
That's interesting. I don't know if that'll happen. One of the better Jeff Stoutland projects, like Stout doesn't seem to get credit for this one as much, but coming out of Weber State, like Sewell was not NFL ready.
No.
And he was super athletic and very raw, and Stout turned him into a functional player.
Yeah. Hard to believe he's been here 4 years.
Yeah, now he obviously hasn't been on the roster
the
whole time, but he's played 38 games and 10 starts.
Yeah, he started 6 games this past year, right?
Yeah.
I think he can play. And I think was he 26, 27?
Something like that, yeah.
I think he'll get I think somebody's going to sign him.
Wow. Okay. How about Rashad Penny?
I'm sure he can't wait to come back.
Does he play somewhere else next year? Do you think he plays again? The Eagles clearly thought he was cooked.
Yeah. I think he'll be in a camp. Beyond that, I don't know because I didn't really see enough of him.
I know. We were all excited to watch him play this year, and then he just didn't.
I mean, he did not distinguish himself in training camp.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much. I mean, he didn't look special, so they saw what we saw. We ended up with 11 carries for 33 yards, long of 7. This is a guy with the highest rushing average in NFL history. A lot of injuries. Maybe they just had, really took a toll. But I mean, before he got hurt, last year in Seattle, I mean, he was averaging like 6 yards a carry. So he's a weird one. He won't be here. I guess the question is whether he'll be anywhere. I think he'll be in a camp, and beyond that, yeah, who knows?
Yeah, he had to be disappointed.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's not what he expected, not what anyone expected.
The next one is Jack Stoll, who is a restricted free agent. They'll probably tender Jack Stoll.
Probably will.
And there's a real big I don't know, though, because that's kind of what Nick views him as.
Yeah, and a lot of this is we don't know what Kellen Moore's thinking.
Yeah, I think Jack has really just been a blocker, right? Blocking tight end. He doesn't offer much in the pass game. And I don't think he's like an elite blocker either. Like, I think he's a solid blocking tight end.
I just realized something, and I'm going to go back. Rashad Penny and Donnell Pumphrey both went to the same school, San Diego State.
Yeah.
And they were both like huge disappointment running backs.
Well,
and they both had huge numbers before they got here. Pumphrey in college, I think he was the number one rusher in history in the NCAA.
Yeah.
And Pumphrey had the highest rushing average in NFL history. And neither one.
Penny.
Neither one of them did anything here. Interesting. What if they know each other? Penny's not that much younger. He's only a year younger. Were they there at the same time? Anyway, you can continue with the podcast now.
Jeez Louise.
I will shut up. I'm going to see if they were there at the same time. I think they were.
What do you make of Jack Stoll?
Well, my whole thing about the tight end spot is that they got to get better. And
I thought that this year, though, too.
Yeah, I did too. I think Stoll's okay. I think Calcaterra's okay. But
if you could somehow merge them into one player.
Yeah, you'd have Dallas Goedert.
No, you wouldn't have Dallas Goedert because Goddard's better at blocking than Stoll, and he's better at receiving.
Yeah, I know. It was just
Calcaterra, but you have a dual threat tight end right now, and I think like they've seen the value in having the second tight end be someone they can throw out in 12 personnel and just block. They weren't looking for a pass catcher, but it's also time to start thinking about a new tight end.
Yeah,
Dallas Goedert is now older than Zach Ertz was when they drafted Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about. Yeah, I think they need some help at that position. I just don't think Stoll or Calcaterra are enough. And I think you really hamstring yourself when you have a tight end that like just isn't going to be a factor in the receiving game at all.
I agree. It kind of shows your hand.
Yeah. So I don't know what the plan will be, but they've got to get a TE2 who can really be a factor.
Yeah. Maybe they don't tender him, and they like kind of like Boston Scott last year. You don't tender him, but you sign him to a kind of a league minimum 1-year deal.
Yeah,
maybe a little above league minimum.
I think that makes sense. I mean, I don't think he's a good enough blocker that it's really a priority to keep him. I mean, he's okay.
Yeah, but I think they've shown they've played him a ton. I think they've shown that they just value him more than people realize.
It's true. By the way, Pumphrey and Rashad Penny were teammates at San Diego State. And in 2016, Pumphrey rushed for 2,133 yards and 17 touchdowns. And Penny rushed for 1,018 yards and a 7.5 average and 11 touchdowns. That's all. That's interesting to me. They had a guy on the team named Micah Holder. I wonder if he was the holder.
All right. The last two, Quez Watkins and Olamide Zaccheaus, we'll kind of lump them together. I think they're both gone.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
If you had to pick one over the other, I think you'd pick OZ to stick around. I think Quez just needs to be somewhere else.
I mean, yeah. The parallel between Pascal and OZ is really similar. I mean, I expected more out of both of them. They were both guys that, had been a factor in the passing game before they got here, and they just never really. And OZ made some big catches. One of them was thrown by the punter, but
the play in that first Tampa game, touchdown from Jalen.
Yeah, but there wasn't enough.
F it, OZ's down there somewhere.
Yeah. I think they need a WR3, a WR4, and a WR5.
All new.
I mean, Covey will be here. He showed he can catch the ball and get you 7 yards. I think maybe they can get him in the offense a little more.
Okay.
I think he could be a good little backup slot. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that, but
they need to remake that position behind
I agree.
The main two guys.
Yeah, speaking of the main two guys,
yeah,
I had a chance last week to catch up with DeVonta Smith. We're not going to run the whole interview, but we have a snippet of it. It's a few minutes long, so feel free to listen to it. If you don't want to listen to it, just fast forward. You're allowed to do that too. But I thought he gave some interesting answers.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen. Joining us now, always fun to talk to this guy, Eagles receiver DeVonta Smith, partnering up with the Verse Collection exclusively at Dick's. DeVonta, it's the off season now. Any big plans for you before training camp starts?
As of now, just resting, recovering.
I know that you've gone through 3 years now in the NFL. Have you kind of figured out a way to schedule your off season to get the most out of it?
I kind of go as I go. I don't really have no specific, plan. Just kind of take a trip here and there, and then the rest just go where I float.
Okay. I know you're kind of known for your workouts and trying to get better. Are there some specific areas you're really looking at this off season in terms of targeting and like, hey, I really want to get better at this element?
Really, just continue being in the weight room, getting stronger, trying to have my body in the best shape to, stay healthy throughout the season.
It's been a little while now since the end of the season. I know it was a lot to kind of absorb the way the season ended. Now that you've been able to take a step back a little bit, have you gotten any more perspective on it? And why do you think the season ended the way it did?
We just couldn't find a way to stop the bleeding, couldn't figure out the things we needed to figure out. And, NFL times run by fast, and, time just got the best of us.
We know that some changes are coming to the Eagles this offseason. One of them is that offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson's not there anymore. You have Kellen Moore coming in. Do you know anything about Kellen Moore, and what was your reaction to that change a few weeks ago?
I don't know nothing about him. It is what it is. No matter who it is come in, I have a job I have to do, and I'm prepared to do that.
Okay. If you had to give a new coach coming in, a new offensive coordinator, some advice on how to get the most out of you and A.J. Brown, what would you say?
Just let us do what we do.
Okay. Do you think that there's another level to your game that we haven't seen yet?
I would say, yeah, you've seen it at times. But that just comes down to, just getting the ball in space. That's all it is.
Okay. How do you get to that level then?
I would say just, continuing to be on the same page as the quarterback, us just having the timing down pat, and us just being able to, make sure that we're on the same page, being able to speak the same language.
You've obviously known Jalen for a while. Is that process always evolving, though, trying to figure out how you and the quarterback best maximize your potential?
Definitely. You never where you want to be. It's always room for improvement. So we definitely can get better in that always.
We talked about the big change on offense, but the one thing that is staying the same, Nick Sirianni is back for year 4. He's the only coach you've had in the NFL, only head coach that is. What's your relationship like with him, and how excited were you to know that he's coming back?
Very good relationship. I'm excited. I think Nick's a great coach. He does a lot of situational things that, people don't quite see and don't quite understand that has his team in a good place. A lot of situational things that I think that he does very well that has guys in the right situations.
A.J. Brown, he's been your teammate now for 2 seasons. What's that relationship been like? It seems like you two have gotten pretty close over the years.
It's been great, man. Being able to have the guy as dynamic as him on the other side, it helps a lot. And then just learning from, 2 different body types, 2 different type of players. So learning things from each other that one possibly is trying to get better at.
It seems like sometimes AJ is a little misunderstood by the public. Is there one thing that you think people should know about him that maybe they don't?
I think one thing that people should, consider about everybody is, everybody's not the same. You're gonna have those guys that's jolly with the media, and you're gonna have some guys that kind of, just step back and just be themselves. I mean, I think everybody expects everybody to be jolly with the media when that's not the case. Some people are just how they are. They're quiet and to themselves. That's just how they are. And I mean, that's kind of how he is. He's just to himself. He, kind of keeps things to himself. And I mean, the media, they just have to accept it and understand it.
I have to ask you about this. I know you're not going to like it. You played 3 years in the league. You're now officially eligible for a contract extension. Is that something you've thought about, and do you hope it happens this offseason?
Let chips fall where they fall. When time comes, it comes. Not necessarily focused on it. It will come, and I'm just letting it go.
All right, the last question here, then I have a quick game for you. The verse line at Dick's, I know you're very fashion forward. You're not going out in anything that doesn't look good. Tell me about this line and why it means so much to you.
Yeah, verse is it's very versatile. Different things you can do, whether it's you lounging around at the house, you're going out for a business meeting, or you're working out. So it pretty much has everything that you need, and that's what I like about it the most. No matter what the situation is, I'm always prepared for a reverse.
All right, the last thing here, I'm going to run down 10 quick superlatives. You're going to name one teammate for me for each. Who's your funniest teammate?
Slay.
Easy answer there. 2, the teammate most likely to be a politician.
I go Mulatto.
I see that. 3, life of the party.
Slay.
4, best dressed.
Besides me, I go Swift.
Okay. 5, and I've heard a lot of debate about this one because it means different things to different people. Most athletic.
Most athletic. I guess I go Jake Elliott.
Okay. I was wondering where you'd fall in that debate. 6, most likely to become an actor.
Mulatto.
7, loudest teammate.
Slay.
Slay's getting almost a clean sweep here. 8, quietest teammate.
Jalen.
9, best bromance on the team.
What does that mean?
Just good buddies.
Jordan and Landon.
And 10, most likely to survive a zombie apocalypse.
Landon.
Thank you, DeVonta. I appreciate the time, man.
Thank you.
It was good to catch up with DeVonta. Not the most loquacious of Eagles players, but thought he gave some good answers in that.
And it is always funny to see him because he and AJ's lockers are next to each other. And AJ, when he gets going, which isn't every week, but when he does start talking, he's loquacious and will go on forever. And DeVonta's just kind of sitting there watching.
DeVonta gets to the point.
He does. What
do you make of him? Do you think he's going to get a contract this offseason?
I think so. I think it's got to be a priority for Howie. I think Howie knows it. And he's been historically really good at these guys, at getting these guys signed.
Yeah, and I know there's been a fear of can they pay AJ and DeVonta? Yeah.
Why not?
I think they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just that. DeVonta's been an important player here from a culture setting aspect. He was just a no nonsense pick. 10th overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner, played at Alabama, going to do everything the right way, going to be good, no question. And he's lived up to all that.
Yeah, and I think there was a question just because of this team's history with drafting receivers in the first round. You were like, he looks like he can't miss based on what he did in college. But if you've been here through, Freddie Mitchell and all those guys and Reggie Brown and I don't go through the names again, but
we know the guys.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were like, all right, what's going to happen? But he's been everything you could imagine. I think there's more there. I really do too.
I think we talked about this on Birds Huddle last week a little bit. he's the guy to me I look at and think a new offensive coordinator with some fresh ideas. I think DeVonta Smith is one guy who could really benefit from that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think everyone can, but DeVonta in particular, just because I feel like over the last couple of years, especially, I mean, his numbers have been really good, but like nothing ever comes easy. Like they're all really contested catches, which he's great at, and he goes up and he gets it, and he's got great hands. He makes tough catches in traffic for a little skinny guy. But there's not a lot of plays where like he's just catching the ball and getting yards. Like you see other guys just make these big plays that they're not getting popped, like as they catch the ball. And I just think that in the right offense, they can scheme him open more. And we know Jalen likes throwing to him.
I kind of think that's what DeVonta was alluding to when he was speaking with me. I asked him like what he needs to get to the next level. And he said it's just about getting the ball in space.
Yeah.
I agree with him.
Yeah.
I think that the same to a certain extent be said for AJ.
Yeah. I think because of AJ's build, I think he's just more suited to some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, DeVonta's biggest attribute is his speed. And we didn't see him.
Is it?
I think so.
Okay. I think it's his route running precision.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about his physical.
Okay.
I mean, he's not like a big, strong. I mean, he's strong. He's tougher than you'd ever imagine for a guy who's that skinny. But
he's also gotten bigger, by the way.
A little bit. His legs are still like.
His legs are real
this.
thin. I don't think there's much you can do about that.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like a marathon runner. Like his legs, but
his upper body's gotten a lot bigger.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting. But yeah, I think there's a lot more there. And I think with the right OC, I see him being like a 13. I just think he should be averaging. What was his yards per catch this year? It was too low, wasn't it? What was his? I'm going to look this up. I apologize. He averaged 13.2. He averaged 12.6. I just think he should be a 15 yards per catch guy. I just think with his ability, and that's getting him the ball, vertically and getting it to him in space and letting him make plays. His numbers have been really good. I mean, the last 2 years, 176 catches, 150 yards, 14 touchdowns. The next step for him is to be a Pro Bowler, and I think he's got it in him.
I do too. He talked before this season about being a top 10 guy. I think he's still around there.
I don't think he's quite the top 10. He's close. I don't know if there's 9 guys I take ahead of him. I'm looking where he finished the year in yards among wide receivers. And all right, let's see. He was why isn't he on this list? He was 20th. So he should be higher up on that list.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, some of the guys he's behind, he should be ahead of. But so many great receivers in the league. AJ was 5th. But yeah, there's a lot more there. We agree on that.
All right, let's take a break. We have some other stuff on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store at nissanusa.com today.
Celebrity cook Steve Martorano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martorano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations at Martorano's Prime on Open Table. All right, we're back. I have some odds powered by Fanatic Sportsbook. Roob, Super Bowl MVP here. No surprise. Top of the list, Patrick Mahomes at plus 120. Then Brock Purdy plus 200. Christian McCaffrey plus 425. And then there's a big drop off. Travis Kelce plus 1100. The first defensive player on the list, Nick Bosa, plus 7,500.
Interesting. When's the last time it wasn't a quarterback?
It's basically a quarterback award. It takes a really special performance. Now, what I will say is if San Francisco wins, I think there's a chance it could be McCaffrey.
Yeah. But it's hard to imagine the Chiefs, like Kelce getting it, because if Kelce gets it, then Mahomes would get it.
Unless like Mahomes throws 3 touchdown passes and they're all to Kelce,
right?
Then maybe. But even then,
and their receivers are bad enough that he could have 170 and Mahomes throws for 230. Mm-hmm. But I'd be shocked if it's not Purdy or Mahomes.
I agree, but I think there's a reason McCaffrey's closer to them than he is the rest of the group.
I would agree with that. And I mean, is McCaffrey a better running back than Kelce is a tight end? Oh, Cooper Kupp got it 2 years ago when the Rams won it. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Julian Edelman got it. Well, Nick Foles got it. Von Miller got it he's the last defensive player.
It's tough for a defensive player, but if it's a muck it out kind of game.
Yeah. Dexter Jackson. Remember that?
Who would you pick as a defensive player to win an MVP in this game? Like, who could you see?
Oh man. I mean, Bosa's
at plus 7,500. Chris Jones is plus 10,000.
I'd take Chris Jones.
Yeah. What about like a L'Jarius Sneed?
Yeah.
You see like a pick 6 changes the game.
Yeah. If he had like 2 picks,
it's tough for a cornerback.
Yeah. Dexter Jackson got it.
I mean, what about like a Fred Warner?
Yeah.
Gets a pick. I could see a forced fumble on a sack, something like that.
I mean, he's the kind of player though that like he doesn't need those kind of flash plays to be great.
Yeah.
Like he's just so good,
but you could have him.
He's certainly capable of it. I'd love to see that. I mean, I'd love to see a linebacker win MVP. Yeah.
I wonder if they've were you an MVP voter last year? Oh, you weren't in the stadium.
I was an MVP voter and I never had a chance to get my vote in.
Oh, really?
Because we were on that scaffolding
mm-hmm.
and we were on camera as soon as the game ended, and they'd emailed me a form. And by the time we were off camera, it was too late. So I would have had my laptop was this like shelf that came up on the side of my chair. And like, we didn't have a monitor. So I didn't know if there was like a one shot on Michael or anything. Like mm-hmm. in the studio, you can tell, I'm not on camera. So I never got my vote in.
Huh.
Yeah.
Would you have changed it? Would there have been a different MVP? Probably not. I think we know who the MVP was last year.
Yeah, I mean, I would have voted for Corey Clement again. No, yeah, it would have been the same guy, but yeah, it was a shame I couldn't. I felt bad about that.
Yeah, that is a shame. It's like a nice thing to get to do.
Yeah.
Oh, well. That's all. Those were some odds from Fanatic Sportsbook. Super Bowl coming up. We're excited for that.
Yeah.
Futures contracts. The Eagles, since the season ended, they've signed 21 players to reserve futures contracts. Basically, it means a player who was not on an active roster at the end of the year. So these are practice squad players. And a bunch of them were...
Or guys who are out of... And they could be from other teams, practice squads, or guys who just weren't on a roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But typically, they were guys who were on practice squads because those other guys you could have had on your practice squad,
right,
if you like them. So most of them were from the Eagles practice squad at the end of the season, 14 of the 21. So Thomas Booker, LaRaven Clark, Noah Ellis, Mekhi Garner, Mario Goodrich, Griffin Herbert, Teron Jackson, Tristan McCollum, Joseph Ngata, Lou Nichols, Brennan Smith, Lucida Smith, Noah Tungiai, and Brett Toth. Noah Tagoa.
It's a good group right there. I was really surprised at your pronunciation. Yeah, any of those guys...
kind of intrigued me a little bit.
Yeah.
Brandon Smith.
It's a big dude.
Big dude. Played a little special teams at the end of the year. He didn't get there until pretty late.
Very late.
Was a draft pick.
Penn State guy, right?
Penn State, 4th round pick to the Panthers. I don't know if he ever like fits in on defense, but I could see him being a special teamer next year.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if you're a linebacker and you have any ability at all, I'll take a look at you in training camp.
That's probably true.
I mean, Penn State linebackers can't go wrong, right? So definitely have him in for a look-see. Give him some reps.
Yeah, and a few of these guys played last year. Mekhi Gardner, Tristan McCollum. We've seen Teron Jackson in the league before. Noah Tangi has played a little bit. Brett Toth has played.
Maro Goodrich has played a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
early in the year. And some of the, it's interesting. LaRaven Clark is, I mean, he's a veteran guy. He's been around. He's played a lot of football. To see him as a futures guy is just weird. He was a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, Texas Tech.
I know that he's a guy that Jordan Mailata said he's learned more from how to practice from LaRaven than anybody. He speaks really highly of him. I guess he's just a guy that they like having around a young O-lineman. He's got good practice habits. He's a good locker room guy. He's a good studier. He can help guys learn to watch film.
And the offensive line, if there's one position where a bunch of injuries can tank a season, we've seen this, is offensive line. So if you keep a stash of these guys around, you hope to avoid that.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to me how the practice squad has evolved from just a guy for developmental young kids who've never played into, you're going to keep a couple of veterans on there. There's no reason not to.
And then there were a few players they brought in 7 of them who were not with the Eagles, at least at the end of the season on their practice squad. A couple of them were with them earlier in the year, but Shaq Davis, Jacob Harris, Tywan Mullen, E.J. Jenkins, Terrell Lewis, Jason Poe, Austin Watkins.
Yeah, and I think some of the names that jump out at me are some of the receivers like Watkins or
big guys.
Jacob Harris.
They're all like big receivers.
And Watkins has played in the league, or he's been on rosters. I don't think he's played. But yeah, he's a big guy. I think at that position, I mean, they're long shots. And the guy that did some good things in training camp, I thought he had a chance to make the roster. I would like to see him up a little bit at the end of the year. Another big guy. Really good player, Clemson. So I think it's a long shot to have a guy come from this group to play for you. It's probably a longer shot as a wide receiver, but there's some guys with good size who they like to come out of school. They had the guys who played in the league. Jacob Harris has played in the league. So just kind of, and they've been drafted. He was a 4. So guys that you certainly want to see in camp, but they're definitely long shots. One guy that's notable omission is Greg Ward, who finished the year on a practice squad. He was cut in the middle of the season, came back like 3 days later, which I'd love to know like what goes into that. It's not like they needed a spot on the practice squad, but
the year-end press conference. Howie, when you guys cut Greg Ward for 3 days,
yeah, probably wouldn't have been the time to ask. There's really, unfortunately, there's no time to ask Howie those type of questions. There's never any like BS type time with him. But I wonder if Greg is interested in maybe finding a spot where he might be able to get on the field. But I don't know if that place exists either for him. Kind of like Boston. He's been a really good Eagle. I'm a big fan of Greg Ward. His teammates love him. Jalen thinks the world of him. They're really close. And he's been here since 2017. He's got a ring. Not a lot of guys on this team were part of that group. So
I do want to highlight Terrell Lewis.
I was going to say, you kind of feel like Greg Ward will be back here at some point.
Maybe. Lewis is interesting to me. 3rd-round pick from Alabama, an edge player.
He's a linebacker. He's an
edge.
Is he an edge? How big is he?
He's like long. I don't know.
Okay. I'll look him up while you talk to me. He was an Alabama guy, right?
Yeah. He's 6'5", 260.
Okay.
He was someone who, and this is like my draft bias, he was someone I liked in that draft. And he hasn't really been able to do much at the NFL level, but I think there's something there.
He had 6 sacks for Bama in 19, 11 and a half tackles for losses. Really his only year as a starter. Wow, he's an older guy. He was at Alabama at 17. So I don't know how old he is. He's 25, so he's not that old. Anyway, yeah, interesting guy. Is he going to be your? No, he's too old to be that. So they list him. The Rams listed him as an outside linebacker.
Yeah. The edge player.
Yeah.
He was an outside backer in a 34, but
He had 3 sacks 2 years ago.
yeah, I think there's a little something there. Now he's in the mix with the Teron Jacksons and Patrick Johnsons and kind of fringe guys who have a chance to make the team.
Give me one guy you think has a chance to make the 53 out of this group.
I think I would go with him.
Really?
Yeah. Terrell Lewis.
Interesting.
Who would you pick?
I'm going to go with Brandon Smith or Joseph Nagata.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Brandon Smith.
I like that. They clearly liked him. He showed some special teams juice, and the one coordinator who's back is the special teams coordinator. So you know that he'll be on like the top units in camp.
Yeah.
Get a look there.
Yeah.
Big dude too. Like
He is.
They list him as a linebacker. He looks like an edge player. He's long and big dude.
He is.
And we should mention a lot of people asking about Devin Allen, not on the futures deal, but he ended the season on IR. He apparently tore his ACL. That report came out. So he's under team control. They don't have to do anything.
Yeah, and he's hoping to run in the Olympic trials. He's already qualified because the qualifying window goes back to last year, but that might be his first race. He already had surgery. He's probably good enough to make the team after not running all year.
You think?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's that good. That's his third ACL surgery.
Scary.
And all 3 have been from football injuries when he's planted. And so it's a little concerning.
Yeah, I read that he thinks the way he trains for running has like made him susceptible.
Yeah. He also said he wants to keep doing football.
Where was that interview? Do you remember?
Where?
Yeah.
NBC. Somebody from NBC. It was one of the Olympic writers.
Okay.
Michael something.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't remember his name.
That's fine. But find that. It was an interesting read.
Yeah, it was.
All right. You got any final words here?
No.
Okay.
But I'm shocked you brought up Devin Allen and I didn't. What are the odds of that happening?
Not great. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, click that like button, subscribe there as well. That's it for Roob. I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.